AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR. We are in Houston today, live from the Rustic in downtown, courtesy of our friends at Louisiana Department of Economic Development, the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, encouraging you to come home, Louisiana. You can visit comehomelouisiana.com, comehomelouisiana.com. A lot to do at the bottom of this hour. We're heading to New Orleans. Ross Jackson, been covering Saints camp for LouisianaSports.net. First full padded practice of training camp so far for the Saints. Ross will be with us here in about 30 minutes to delve into that. But Jay Johnson is piecing together his 2026 roster coming off a national championship. And part of that, of course, is losing a slew of really talented players to the Major League Baseball draft. And among them is Conner Ware, who was selected in the 15th round by the New York Mets, signed his professional contract, so he's off to pro ball. And Conner Ware, good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here on AFR. Hey, Conner, it's a pleasure, man. Thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. It's our pleasure. Hey, let me just start with the most obvious ones immediately, then we'll go backwards. When the Mets call in round 15, what was that decision like that you had to make, whether to accept their offer or maybe consider a return to LSU?
Yeah, it was definitely a lot to process, a lot to think about. Me and my family had kind of talked about, how the draft would go before. So thankfully we already talked about that and kind of figured out what I wanted to do. But yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision. Obviously, coaches are awesome at LSU. It's always a tough decision to kind of turn down school going back. But ultimately, my dream is to play baseball. So when they gave me that opportunity, I was glad to take it.
Did you know when – so often, of course, we know like the top 10 rounds, the bonus slot pool, and if you're outside of round 10, it could be a little more ambiguous. Did you know when the Mets called in round 15 that you had accepted a contract at that point and that you were going to sign your professional deal?
I wasn't 100% at the moment. It kind of all happened so fast.
Yeah.
I didn't really hear much like during the draft. I was kind of just watching and hoping stuff. But yeah, it could just kind of all happen really fast. I wasn't 100% positive yet, but after a lot of thought, I decided to go that direction.
What did I'm certain you talked to Jay Johnson or Nate Yeskie afterwards. What did the LSU coaches have to say?
They were all super happy for me. They're all super supportive. Obviously, they wanted me to come back, but I also, they understood that, this was my dream and this is what I wanted to do. And so they were really supportive of that and just appreciative. And I thank them for that, for being super understanding.
Conner Ware is our guest. If you had come back, what did they discuss with you, Conner? Like, what would that role or opportunity have looked like?
It kind of just, would have been an open slot, just going into the fall, proving myself, going into the fall, especially with a brand new team like we would have had this year, it's everybody's game, So just had to go back in and prove myself again.
Sure. Of course, going out a national champion is it's never a bad thing, right? If you've had now a month to give some thought to the amazing run that you all went on. When you're asked for the rest of your life about that team, that championship run, what are you going to say?
I'm super thankful. I can't express how thankful I am to just have the team that we had. All the guys on there were just incredible, all great friends. I'm super blessed to be able to call them a family for the rest of my life. I think the big thing about winning a national championship, me and a couple of my friends have talked about is just, that group is going to be together forever. And so the memory of that team and all the guys are always going to be connected. And I think that's what I'm most appreciative of. And I think that's what I'm, most thankful for going into this next phase of life is just that I'll be able to be with these guys, for the rest of my life, and I'll always be in contact with them.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you thought about it, like obviously, the 2000 team had their 25-year reunion this year, and in 25 years, like, that's going to be you guys back at the box, being celebrated and being honored that way. It's really cool. Have you thought about, have you all had any talk about the championship rings or anything like that yet?
We haven't yet. I think they're going to surprise us, but I'm super excited to get back to Baton Rouge for that and see all the guys again.
Yeah, so where are you now?
I am in Port St. Lucie, Florida, at the Complex League with the Mets. So.
So have the Mets already given you your rookie ball assignment?
No, not yet. I'm still in rehab. I had that back injury towards the beginning of the year that I was kind of working through, so they're kind of shut me down for a little bit, just focus on getting that 100% healthy.
Yeah, I did want to ask you about that because there were always whispers that you had the back injury and maybe it limited you a little bit. I mean, obviously you had the great outing back in Arlington against Dallas Baptist near the beginning of the season. How, and now that the season's over, maybe you can elaborate a bit, like how healthy or how injured were you this year?
I always wanted to help the team. I was good enough to throw, and that's why I kept going out there. And, I wanted to help in whatever way possible. I definitely wasn't 100%, but, I was good enough to throw, and that's ultimately what I wanted to do to help the team regardless, however I could. So,
yeah. When you think back to Omaha and you all going on that amazing run, are there games or moments in games that when you close your eyes, you could still visualize, like from your vantage point, what you saw that you hope you'll be able to remember and tell those stories forever?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super surreal. When I was standing with a couple of my friends, roommates in the dugout, we were just sitting there talking and like, man, we just need to take this all in. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm really glad we were able to do that and kind of get those memories in my head, things we can kind of remember for the rest of our lives, stories we can tell our kids, and I'm super thankful to have those experiences.
What story do you think you'll tell your kids first?
I think the first one I'll tell is just the walk-off against Arkansas. That was probably the craziest game I've ever been a part of, and just such a roller coaster of emotions. So that's definitely the first one I'll tell. I feel like I'll be able to relive that moment for the rest of my life.
I mean, was there a moment you're watching that, like, the ball ricochets off of Davalon's shoulder or, like, any of that stuff? Like, what of all that was the craziest for you sitting there watching, taking it all in?
Yeah, that was definitely probably the craziest. I was down there in the bullpen with all the guys. I was sitting down there with Anthony and Chase, and that happened, and we were just all in shock, and we were just super, like, such a mix of emotions because I kind of felt bad for Davalon. He's such a great player that definitely wouldn't have been in that situation without him. But at the same time, obviously excited because we get put in a situation where we can walk off the game. So it was kind of just a roller coaster of emotions, and I'm super glad the way it turned out. Super thankful.
Conner Ware is our guest. Hey, man, let me ask you, obviously a lot of the young guys on this staff maybe who didn't play a giant role that will probably have an expanded role next year. Anybody that you think fans maybe didn't get to see a bunch from this year that they will in the future that you think are really talented guys that will have an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out. They're all super, super great. Looking back at all the freshmen, you got Kaysen, Cooper, William, Maverick Rizzi. Looking back at all those freshman guys on the staff, they are all super mature. And I feel like for their age and for their experience in college baseball that they had, they all played a pretty big role at the end of the season just for being a freshman. And I'm super excited to see where they are going into the next season. They're definitely all going to be huge leaders on the staff. And so I'm super excited to kind of see how they lead and where that staff ends up next year because I think they have potential to be the greatest in the country.
Conner Ware, now part of the Mets organization. Hey, before you go, did you ever have to face Derek Curiel in an inter squad?
Yeah, unfortunately I did.
How did that go, man? What's it like throwing to him?
It's always tough because he has such a good eye and he knows exactly what the zone is. So, you can't throw anything in the zone because he's going to hit it, and if you throw anything out of the zone, he's going to take it. So you're always in a bind with that. But so I just And the fall was so crazy. I feel like every time he was up to bat, he worked himself into a hitter's count. So it's pretty incredible to watch. I'm super excited to see what he's going to do this year.
Yeah, man. What a great season that we all got to go along for the ride that you all took us on, man. Congrats on being a national champion. Good luck with the Mets in your next phase, and thanks for taking some time today, man. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Tiger fans.
Of course. That is Conner Ware, forever a national champion with the 2025 LSU Tigers. It's interesting. You heard him say it there. You know, it's you can't help but wonder a little bit of what if he had been healthy, because all of the reports in fall were that Conner Ware was LSU's best arm in the fall. I mean, I talked to scouts who had seen him pitch for 5 years that were like, if anyone in that rotation falters, Ware is the next guy up. And it was very clear that he just wasn't healthy. But you heard him say it. You know, he wanted to help the team, so he was healthy enough to throw. When he could take the ball, he did. But it clearly limited his effectiveness. But a guy, 15th round pick of the Mets, signed his pro contract, opted for pro ball, and I don't think there's any doubt. Like, just the physical ability he has from the left side, that's a guy that he goes and gets healthy, he's going to be awesome and have a great chance to be a big leaguer. So we wish him well. We appreciate Conner Ware for a couple of minutes. Hey, we're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Even if you live where we are today in Houston, it doesn't matter. You want to buy 200 acres for a hunting camp in Texas, First South Farm Credit can help you do that. They've got branches in Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, but they can help you buy land anywhere in the contiguous 48. So if it's 50 acres in St. Francisville or Clinton to build your family's dream home, maybe you live in New Orleans and you want to move to the North Shore, work in New Orleans so you can have the rural lifestyle but work in the city. So many people are doing that now. You can go buy that 100 acres in Tangipahoa or whatever it may be. First South Farm Credit can help make it happen. Make your first call to First South Farm Credit. firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com for First South Farm Credit. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. Our buddy Dan Mathews from Sports Talk 790, part of the Sean Salisbury Show, is coming out, hanging out with us on site. He's going to jump on set with me next when we come back from this break. And then Ross Jackson in 17 minutes giving us an update on Saints camp. We will continue here from the Rustic, courtesy of our friends at Louisiana Economic Development, the Department of Louisiana Economic Development, the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, the LSU Alumni Association. Awesome to be here at the Rustic in downtown Houston. Stay here.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by our friends over at Duplessis Builders. I'll tell you what would be awesome right now, going to swan dive into a pool. It's about 94 degrees with a heat index of about 110 in downtown Houston. Yes, we're shaded. We got fans blowing. But I'm going to tell you, man, a cool dive into a pool right now would be welcomed. Our friends at Duplessis Builders makes that happen every single day. It doesn't matter if you want to build that custom pool from scratch. Maybe you bought a home with a pool that needs to be renovated or remodeled. Maybe you want that sauna, the putting green to beautify your outdoor space. Duplessis Builders does all of that. And congrats to Derek and the crew over at Duplessis. They were named by Pool and Spa Magazine a top 50 pool builder in America. Look, lots of pool companies can build you a beautiful pool, but the customer service experience and the quality, there's only one. DuplessisBuilders.net, DuplessisBuilders.net.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
Back on a Monday edition of AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We are in Houston, Texas, at the Rustic downtown. Awesome event with our friends here at the LSU Alumni Association, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Of course, you can learn more at comehomelouisiana.com, comehomelouisiana.com. A guy who has strayed, or I should say has Louisiana ties, but co-host of the Sean Salisbury Show weekday mornings on Sports Talk 790 here in Houston, our buddy Dan Mathews. Popeye, good to see you, man.
What's up, man? Welcome to Houston.
Thank you, dude. I love coming to Houston. You know, I've got a lot of love for this city. We spent nearly a year here with Drew when he was born. So every time I'm on 10 West and I see the skyline, it sort of warms the subcockles of my heart. A lot of people can joke about the 610 loop, and you can joke about the traffic and all the everything, but I mean, the Texas Med Center is literally, not to be too heavy, but it's literally the reason my son's alive. And so I love coming back here.
Well, it's also, though, too, I mean, you know, if you're a local, you don't call them by 610, 10, 59, anything like that.
What do you say?
It's
Learn
the
me.
Katy Freeway.
Huh?
It's the East Tex Freeway.
Okay.
I think the Loop is still the Loop, but it's just called the Loop and then the Beltway. So everything's got a name. If you're not from here and we tell you, I'll take the East Tex Freeway, you're like, the hell does that even mean?
I don't know what that means at all. Like I was here for almost a year, and I did AFR. If you don't remember, for those 9 months that we lived in Houston, I would leave the hospital every day and I would do AFR from the iHeart studios. Now, I wasn't in the 790 studio. Eddie Martini was very kind and gracious and basically converted a prod room, a production room, into a studio that connected back to Baton Rouge, and that's where I did my show. But everybody at iHeart Houston was great to me, man. And I was, they didn't have to be, but they welcomed me and it was awesome. But I went up 59 every day. So what is 59 called?
So if you were going up 59, I would
from the Med
say
Center to
you're
59.
the East Tex. If you're going like towards Sugar Land, that's the Southwest Freeway.
Yeah, I would go 59 to 610, then exit Post Oak, and it was over there. Y'all moved studios now, but anyway, I had a great time.
Not too far, but yeah.
You know, it's odd that you and I, we talk often or text often. We don't see each other often. We saw each other just a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta for SEC Media Days. I know you're there primarily Texas A&M, covering the Texas schools, but did you go in, I love to ask the question, did you go in with maybe a certain preconceived notion and came away with a different one? Any team?
I mean, the funny thing is it's kind of like the age-old Texas is back. And the thing that I've been cautioning our audience against for the longest time is stop putting Arch up here, dude, because it's not going to be reached, and then you're going to be disappointed. And I understand, what talking season is. I understand that it's untapped potential, because the most popular quarterback on campus is the 5-star, high 4-star guy that has never played.
The backup,
because that guy is the one.
Awesome.
Because the head coach is a moron and just stubborn and doesn't want to play him. So then that's finally the case. But look, I mean, you heard Steve Spurrier, what he said a few weeks ago. Look, if Arch was really that great of a quarterback with that group of receivers they had last year, which you still have NFL guys.
Yeah.
By the way, those guys aren't there anymore. And I understand how well they've recruited. And they got to go up to Ohio State and play that very first game of the season. I mean, you've seen it with LSU over the last few years.
Yeah, thanks
you lose
for that
game.
Thanks, Dan.
It pains me too. It pains me as well.
My guy's an LSU guy. He's wearing his LSU shirt.
Man.
If you're listening, not watching, Dan's rocking his LSU shirt.
Countless birthdays that have been ruined by Florida State and by USC. And you better, as hell, not have Clemson ruin it again, because I've got too many Clemson friends, and I can't hear that.
But we're not going. Like, we've done shows from the opener, from the Rose Bowl, from Vegas last year. Like, we're not doing the Clemson. Well, first of all, it's just there's no good place in Clemson, South Carolina to do it or to stay, right? You have to be in Greenville. So we're like, we're gonna do with the LSU Alumni Association the Vanderbilt trip in Nashville instead.
Sweet.
Better city.
Yeah.
Probably a game you shouldn't have trouble with. I mean, Alabama had trouble with them a year ago. 40-35, take that. You got Diego Pavia, take that. Alabama is burning. So
I'm sure Cruz Oxenrider is probably going to tag you in something now, just so you just did that again. So goodbye, you.
I don't know what that means, but we can roll with it. Do you believe in A&M as an up and comer? Because that's my. I think that's the team that's going to be better than most people are giving them credit this year. I
mean, obviously LSU found out that Marcel Reed is pretty good, but how many times have we seen that out of A&M quarterbacks where they have that huge pop game and then they completely fall off? I mean, I'm not saying that's going to be the case with Reed, but I forget who said it, if it was Chris Gordy or whoever it was in our group, but I heard this a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta. Until Texas A&M doesn't go 8-4, I'm picking them to go 8-4.
That's fair.
Because, I mean, it's been the same thing every single year. It's the national hype train. Oh, they finally got it figured out. All of these different things. Now, I will say this. I think they finally have the right head coach. And I think that probably Trev Alberts is going to go to the fan base a little bit more when they're calling for, all right, now let's get rid of Velko and finally say, guys, we can't keep paying people to not coach. Like, soon enough, we'll run out of money. I understand oil still comes out of the ground, but like, you're paying Jimbo to now be a talking head on ACC Network and not work. I mean, soon enough, you've got to be able to at least see the thing through. And I do think that Elko actually, as being a good head coach, I mean, saw it last year. I hate to say it. He outcoached Brian Kelly. He outcoached him big time in that game. And then, I mean,
I don't know
you
that
see
I
the
go
talent
there,
they
Dan.
have.
I don't know that I believe that. I mean, the game at Kyle Field, LSU was so firmly in control and nussed through the bad pick, and they put in Marcel Reed, and LSU couldn't stop a running quarterback. I mean, it felt like that's when the game unraveled. I don't know that I'll look at Elko Kelly on that one. But I agree with you on Elko. I think he's a good coach. I just think good stable of running backs, good offensive line. I think just your point. I think Elko's a really good defensive coach. But you're right, man. Last year in the opener, I was sitting in Vegas at the Circus Swim, right, the big 100-foot screen, and we're watching.
Jealous for you.
Well, dude, it was cool. It was a very cool thing. But I'm watching Notre Dame, Texas A&M on the not 100, like the 100-foot, the one that's like 60 yards long.
Can't miss it.
The giant thing.
Yeah.
And I remember tweeting like, Conner Ware, this is the guy that everybody said was going to be a first-round draft pick. Of course, dude loses his job. He's not even at A&M anymore. So there is that component of it. But I may be a little more bullish on Marcel Reed than on Wegman. Is it fair?
No, I mean, he's going to have a good run game. So, I mean, he's got that with Moss. I mean, that's not nothing. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, 4 out of their 5 returning offensive linemen are back. Yeah. So, again, that helps too. So, I mean, that's what A&M, when R.C. Slocum was there and they had really good defense and they had a stellar run game, it was the other part of it that got him run out of town. But ask Aggie fans if they wouldn't go back for more of what R.C. Slocum gave for years. Because, hell, kind of like what Tennessee had been up until Josh Heupel got there, A&M had been the same way of thinking, hey, get rid of the old guy, get rid of the old fogey. He can't do it anymore. And then you're chasing it constantly, trying to hire and fire coaches and trying to be able to build up that continuity. But with rev share, everything, I mean, Chris Gordy pointed this out to me off air one time. Not a single head coach in the SEC was fired this year. Not one. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens this next offseason, but with all of the other things, you've finally probably got like the big money people who ADs have to go to with the hat and say, hey, can you pay us to, be able to buy out this coach? And they're like, dude, soon enough, no. Like, I've got to see the results if I'm putting in money to this thing, and you're not getting that as much. When
those wells run dry, it'll be interesting to see if we start to see contracts that don't have the enormous buyouts. I don't think we're going to solve that today, but Trev Alberts has said it best. College football, college athletics doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. So when you get spending under control, a lot of those things will fall into line. Dan Mathews, Sports Talk 790 here in Houston with us for a couple of more minutes. Let me get a thought on LSU this season. What's your take?
Well, I mean, up front in the trenches, it's going to be kind of a remains to be seen because, I mean, even last year with Campbell and the group that they had, you expected more, right? Like, didn't you think that they were going to be in the running game? I mean, that's the biggest thing. So if they can shore both of those things up, they've got the skills. They've got much improved players in the secondary. That helps. And, I mean, having Whit Weeks back, you saw what he meant to that defense last year. So, I mean, there's no reason that I think that if nothing else, this could have shades of 2019 where the good thing in 2019, you had a week to prepare to go to Texas and win that game. They don't win the national championship that year unless they go to Austin and win that game. This is kind of a similar thing at Clemson, and it's going to be a raucous atmosphere, all of that. We're the real Death Valley, of course, fine, whatever. But all of those things are going to be there. That you win that game, then you can start believing. But you want to, even with the expanded playoffs, just finally put yourself on the right track. I'm just begging for one thing. Yeah. I've already said the prayer for the Astros to win another World Series, and it happened. But then I've doubled back and said, hey, I already asked you once, so maybe can I throw that same prayer in?
God will grant many miracles. Are the Astros even close to that?
Yeah, they're 4 games up in the division.
That's fine. I don't care about your division. I mean, can you actually beat the Dodgers and win a World Series?
Well, I mean, we have to have more than half of the team off the IL. I mean, that would help.
Sad that Bregman's not here. Are you still sad about that?
I mean, a little bit, but I got over it pretty quickly when Isaac Paredes, before he just completely obliterated his hamstring. Before that happened, I was okay. But, I mean, just please give us Jordan and Jeremy Pena back. That's all we ask.
It just goes...
Well, many more, but let's just start there first.
dynastic runs are fleeting, and for every team in every sport, man. It's like, I know we talk a lot about the Saints. I mean, the great run, you had a decade and a half with Breeze and Peyton, and it's gone. And now you've spent a half decade sucking, and it's probably not going to end anytime soon.
Well, I mean, and Astros Twitter now is asking, once Yordan Alvarez is healthy again, do you trade him, trade Fromm, or any of these other people? I'm like, just because you rebuild doesn't mean it's going to be what it was.
No doubt. He's Dan Mathews, Sports Talk 790 here in Houston. You hear him weekday mornings on the Sean Salisbury Show with our guy Sean Salisbury. Give the big guy our best.
Yeah.
What you got?
Oh, I was going to say, shout out Chris Marlar, Moose.
There you go.
Everybody back in studio.
Paul O'Neill.
Paul O'Neill, of course. How could I forget about Paulie?
Marlar's not back in studio. Marlar texted.
He's unloading boxes
he's
or
at
something.
Sam's Club. I'm like, did you go to the Sam's Club on Segan today? I'm like, you just, like, your first day in town and you decided to go to the worst part of Baton Rouge traffic. Like, God bless, it's only going to be better from here.
You got to learn the town.
I know. Thank you, dude. I appreciate
You're the best, bud.
Dan is actually my hero because he brought me shorts that I can put on. It's 110 degrees outside. All right, it's after further review. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows. We'll continue from the Rustic. Ross Jackson with the Saints Camp Report when we continue here on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Goodwood, Men's Sexual Wellness. So many different ways that Goodwood can help you attain and achieve your healthiest, most vital self. We talk a lot about hormone replacement therapy. Of course, they have that. But there's other things like BPC 157. If you're not familiar, body protection compound 157. Studies have shown an incredible ability to aid in things like recovery. So if you have an injury, I did an 8-week cycle. I'm on the 8-week cycle off right now, but the difference I felt in my back pain in those 8 weeks, I've only begun to truly notice being off how much it helped when I was on. That's something I absolutely plan to continue. I'm not saying you definitively should do it. What I'm saying is, if you're a man and you want to live your more healthy, vital life where you wake up in the morning, tons of energy, ready to roll, you need to check out our friends at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit them online. Start there at yourgoodwood.com.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And oh, we do shutters too.
New Orleans Saints, their first full padded practice of training camp on Monday. Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, Locked On Saints. He was there. He's here now. Ross, how are you, man?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's our pleasure. By the way, hat tip. I know I've mentioned it many times, but Ross doing an amazing job at LouisianaSports.net with the camp reports. You're not going to find a more comprehensive report, more detailed report, and totally free. So get it all there at LouisianaSports.net. Let me begin with what I believe is the obligatory question for every camp practice. How do the quarterbacks look?
Yeah, okay, good. I thought you were going to ask me if it was hot outside. I was going to say, let's talk about something else. I don't want to think about that. No, but the quarterbacks, for the most part, look, I'm going to be honest, like, today was pretty uninspiring, really, from all three of those guys. And that's going to be the case when you go into your first set of padded practices and things like that. There's a little bit of a recalibration you have to go through. Some of these guys haven't worn pads since January or February. And so getting back to that sort of situation is something you've got to adjust to. But they found their little moments to kind of make plays and things like that, which has been consistent over the course of the first 5 days of camp. But looking at them in totality, I think you see good things and you see places where they struggle. I think so far Spencer Rattler's been the most consistent and maybe best quarterback of the trio. He's the only one that hasn't taken third-team reps either, though, so I don't know how much that plays into things. But right now, I would put him pretty comfortably right now at number one amongst the beginning. But obviously, we're just 5 days of camp in, and so things will continue to go. And especially as they sort of get more opportunities with these padded practices to deal with the pressure that's been coming from guys like Chase Young and Carl Granderson, who have kind of been on fire. Seeing which one of those three really one of the two between Spencer Rattler and Travis Dutt, really can kind of manage the pressure. I think that might be one of the earliest deciding factors for that week one battle.
I noticed in your report that a big part of the focus today was the run game install. And Ross, I do think this is interesting because when you and I were having these conversations a year ago, really the biggest part of the offense was Clint Kubiak. For the first time in 15 years, there was a new offensive coordinator, and you went into such detail about like the wide zone, right? The different style of run. What do we know, or do we know yet anything about the approach to the running game with Kellen Moore?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Kellen Moore's run game, we have to look at two specific things. The run game as brought to you by the running backs, and then the running game that's brought to you by all of the other players that can contribute. So starting with the running backs, I think the thing that's most consistent with any Kellen Moore offense is his ability to be able to play to the strengths of who is in that backfield. So while Alvin Kamara will still get his opportunities out in space and in that wide zone offense, which is what the Saints ran 69.8% of the time last year, league most outside of the tackles rushing last year, we'll probably still see a good bit of between the tackles rushing with guys like Kendre Miller, Devin Neal, Cam Akers, whoever that other complimentary between the tackles rusher ends up being. And so I think that you'll see that. You're also going to see a pretty good blend of both zone, which is basically, zone running is more about kind of blockers trying to set up multiple gaps for the running back to be able to read those gaps, read where the gaps are being shot by the defense, and then choose the gap that's not those. They usually try to open up 3 different gaps in zone run plays. And then you also still see some of the man or gap scheme runs where everything's really about trying to just power through, open up a hole for that running back and allow that running back to be able to attack that lane. So I think you'll see both of those sides. The other piece to this is all of the other players that will contribute to the run game. You're going to see jet sweeps. You're going to see end arounds. You're going to see RPOs from the quarterback. You're going to see designed runs by the quarterback. We saw designed runs for Spencer Rattler in his first team reps the first day of practice. And so I think that that's the other area where you're really going to look for Kellen Moore to bring things into sort of the modern day, as Cesar Ruiz called it today, when it comes to that run game.
I'd love to ask a follow-up on Kendre Miller because we all know the story, right? Over a couple of seasons, the inability to stay healthy, the extreme potential, it just hasn't worked. I know you wrote about Kendre Miller. You all had a chance to speak to him a day ago. If you would, share with us your 10,000-foot observations of Miller early 5 days in now through camp.
Yeah, I'll start with what we saw from him at the podium because I think the qualities that he expressed at the podium are still the qualities that we're seeing on the field. And getting to speak to him after practice the other day, like, look, I'm still very much in my infancy, right? Like, I've only been covering this team in person from about, 2020. And so Kendre coming in 2023, he's like one of those players. I haven't seen many careers begin and end in my coverage, but he's one of those guys that, I will see the beginning and end of his career at some point. So I think that, when you start to see some of those guys, you kind of start to see a bit of their story start to, formulate. And his story is one that's really kind of challenging. He didn't have a lot of injury issues in college, and all of a sudden he showed up in New Orleans, and he's kind of lived on injured reserve, as he said. And so now he's kind of in a place where he's feeling a little bit more free. He's expressing a little bit more joy. He feels a whole, weight load off of his shoulders in the fact that he's feeling healthy, and he feels like he has his body back. This is a guy that 2 years into his career last year needed that Giants game to remind him that he could still play football. I mean, that's kind of tragic when you really think about it, right? Like, for a guy that was, by the way, came into the league at 20 years old. And so you kind of see a little bit of the gratitude from him. And I think you see all that kind of play out on the field as well. He's working hard. He's dedicated. He's trying to run through tackles. He had a really nice run today in these padded practices, which kind of puts him back in his element. And we talked about kind of the split of, the wide zone or the outside runs versus the inside runs. Kellen Moore is a little bit more balanced. And so I think that that's going to allow Kendre Miller to do a little bit more of what it is that he's best at, which is running between the tackles, running through contact, stick his foot in the ground, one cut, and get downfield. And I think that's one of the things that he's looking forward to most with this new offensive system that should support his skill set a bit more.
Couple more for you here. Ross Jackson is with us, LouisianaSports.net, and, of course, Locked on Saints. Make sure you subscribe YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. This was the first full padded practice. And, Ross, I don't really like to ask questions about the line of scrimmage until they put the pads on because what can you really tell until they actually put pads on? So one day, but what can you really tell now that they put the pads on?
Yeah, look, either the Saints edge rushers, Chase Young and Carl Granderson, are really good, or the Saints tackles, Kelvin Banks Jr. and Taliesin Fuanga, are not doing a great job early on in practice. And that's always sort of the back and forth you got to take when it comes to, training camp. Is the offense good or is the defense bad? Is the defense good or is the offense bad? That balance. But, look, we know Taliesin Fuanga is really good. He was great starting at left tackle, a position he had never played before. We know Kelvin Banks is really, really good. Outland Trophy winner, Lombardi Trophy or Lombardi Award winner as well. Like, this is the guy that is an outstanding offensive lineman. And so I think the thing that we're learning is that guys like Chase Young and Carl Granderson getting to kind of stand up or rather even pick their deployment, pick their alignment, in this new Brandon Staley system are being elevated big time. Those guys have been disruptive. They've consistently been in the backfield. I write 99 and 96 in my notes every single day because those guys are constantly making plays, either pressures or what we would call would-be sacks in a non-contact situation. These guys were top 17 to both of them in pressures last year. The issue was finishing when they got to the quarterback. That's what we still need to see, and we won't see that until they stop hitting each other and start hitting players on other teams. But for right now, I think that if you're looking for a building block to feel a little bit of optimism about this thing's pass rush, it starts with Carl Granderson and Chase Young.
The hitting others is really right around the bend when you look at the Saints heading out in a few weeks to California to practice and then take on the Chargers as the preseason schedule is just around the bend. Ross Jackson, hey, before you go, we probably are all guilty of not talking enough about special teams, but today, first full padded practice, anything worth noting with the specialists?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I think right now one of the first things that you're looking at is teams are really, really prepping to cover kicks. And I know that sounds like, oh, duh. But they made that rule change this year to where the kickoff out of the back of the end zone now, instead of taking you to the 30, takes you to the 35. And that's enough to change the way that teams play special teams across the league when it comes to kickoff. And so a lot of the physicality that we saw kind of got ticked up during those special teams drills where they were running a little bit of that kickoff coverage, getting ready for, right field, left field, these types of things. So that's one thing. I will say Blake Grupe, like you and I had talked about the kicker battle before the season, before training camp started. Blake Grupe is off to a fantastic start. He's 14 of 15 so far through camp, with his one miss being from about 49 yards during a random rain downpour that happened during day 3 of camp. And he hit a 51-yarder today that would have been good from 60 pretty easily. And he's hitting everything right down the middle. So Blake Grupe looks really, really good during this camp. He's kind of running uncontested right now with Charlie Smith struggling a bit, 5 of 10 so far, and a lot of his misses between 40 and 50, and that's been consistent for him. So accuracy is still a thing for Charlie Smith to get figured out. But right now, Blake Grupe is looking really, really solidly placed to continue to be the starting kicker for the team, and probably a more successful season than we've seen for him over the course of the past couple of years.
Ross Jackson on Twitter at Ross Jackson Nola, at Ross Jackson Nola. Subscribe to the Locked On Saints podcast. Make sure you read Ross's reports every day over at LouisianaSports.net. In all seriousness, I don't think you're going to find a more comprehensive report. I know I've edited them; they're 6 pages long, and free, by the way, and free at LouisianaSports.net. No paywalls. Go read them every day. Get your Saints coverage there at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, we appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. You take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
All right, bud. Be well. It is After Further Review, brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com. If you want to see 2020, call 924-2020, no matter your age or your refractive issue. We're getting back into the back-to-school time. You're probably getting the kiddos' eyes checked. Remember, the Williamson Eye Center, a full-service optical shop, so you can have your annual eye exam. You can buy your contacts or glasses. And if you want to ditch the contacts and glasses forever, they've got a refractive procedure for you, no matter your age or your refractive issue. But again, it's back to school time. Make sure you get the kiddos' eyes checked. Book that appointment at the Williamson Eye Center with locations all over Greater Baton Rouge, including their newest location in St. Francisville. It's the Williamson Eye Center, WilliamsonEye.com, WilliamsonEye.com. Appreciate Ross Jackson. Yeah, I don't know whether to be encouraged by the pass rush reports or discouraged for the offensive line, because your last 2 first-round picks you've used on your tackles now with Banks at left and Fuaga at right. And you've got Granderson and Chase Young, 2 guys you've invested a lot of money and resources in to being really good pass rushers. And last year, the New Orleans Saints were in the bottom half of the NFL in sacks. Chase Young was top 10 in pressures, but the Saints as a whole were bottom half of the league in sacks. They just didn't get home. So you want to see that number tick up, but it's always sort of the confounding thing. And Ross alluded to it, and he's right. It's whenever you're watching good on good, it's, are you encouraged because the pass rush is good, or are you discouraged that the first and second year tackles are struggling? You won't find out until they go play the Chargers. And I don't know that you're going to have a definitive answer but you're going to start to get those answers revealed to you. And I'm not trying to make too much of Kelvin Banks' first padded practice in the NFL. By the way, here's Chase Young. Good luck, kid. You know what I mean? So it'll be an evolution, but that's definitely something to watch. Encouraging on the defensive end. Certainly maybe a little concerning. We'll see how it continues to develop on the offensive side. Okay, it's After Further Review. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows. We're here at the Rustic in downtown Houston with our friends from the LSU Alumni Association, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, encouraging those Louisianians who have gone astray to come home Louisiana. Visit comehomelouisiana.com, comehomelouisiana.com. So much investment going in. Economic investment going into the state to create new jobs and to bring you home. So visit comehomelouisiana.com, comehomelouisiana.com. Okay, quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. Muse will have Tigers in the Pros. Don't you move.
After Further Review.
If you're a business owner and you need to find maximum efficiency and productivity, well, you got to find the right people. That goes without saying. The best way to maximize efficiency and productivity is having the right people in the right positions in your organization. If you've struggled with hiring the right people, Glow Resources can help. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. They specialize in skilled blue-collar labor. They have their professional placement division, so no matter what type of white-collar job you're looking for, from office assistants to C-level management, our friends at Glow Resources can help. Now, they are not a staffing agency. So if you're looking for a job, do not call Glow Resources. They want to talk to you, the business owner, you, the operations manager, you, the hiring manager, the person in charge of finding the right people for your business. Glow Resources can help you achieve that. Learn more online at glowresources.com. G-L-O, glowresources.com.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Wrapping up hour number 2 at the Rustic downtown Houston. If you know a Houston Tiger, tell them to come on and join us. We're here until 6, but tons going on here at the Rustic. I had great lunch earlier today. We're on this big stage outdoors, live music where they normally play live music, and cool bar selection as well. Come hang out here at the Rustic. We're here courtesy of our friends at the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, Baton Rouge Area Chamber, the LSU Alumni Association, and filling up with lots of Texas Tigers. Always good to be here in Houston. All right, Muse, so Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, we begin with Paul Skeens. He was on the bump Sunday afternoon for the Pittsburgh Pirates. 6 shutout innings from Skeens. Did walk 1, punched out 9. Kept it under 100 pitches as well. Paul Skeens now through 45 starts, the only pitcher in MLB history with a sub-2 ERA through 45 starts. His first 45 starts, I should say. And he got the win, 6-8. That is back-to-back starts that Paul Skeens gets the win, and it's another shutout. Pirates win that one 6-0. Maybe they're starting to figure this thing out. Just give him a couple runs, and he'll take you the rest of the way. Grant Taylor got the start for the Chicago White Sox a day ago. Really just an opener role. Threw an inning, gave up 2 earned runs, did punch out 2. Unfortunately, gets tagged with the loss, so his record falls to 0-2. Josh Smith, what a day for Josh Smith. Playing first base, batting leadoff, 3 out of 4. The big one, his 9th home run of the season. It was a 2-run shot. He scored twice. The 2 RBIs also drew a walk. He's just had an absolutely phenomenal season up to this point, and it continues for the Texas Rangers. Hats off, congratulations, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, both members of the Madden 99 overall club. Just 7 players earning the distinction. Jets and Jamar, each one of the 7, up there with the likes of Lamar Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Myles Garrett. Pretty good company for those 2. Angel Reese misses yet another game for the Chicago Sky. She continues to deal with a back injury. This is 3 or 4 games in a row. She has not played since the All-Star game when she contributed a few minutes off the bench there for her team. And Anissa Morrow got the start for the Connecticut Sun on Sunday. 8-11 for Morrow, 24 minutes, all in total. Connecticut Sun got the win as well. Their 4th of the season. That's Tigers in the pros.
Shaw Bill's Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com. Look, this morning, got in the car, got on the road to Houston. Never have to worry about it because if you have any issues with your vehicle, bring it to Shaw Bill's. Miss Beth, I tell you, man, so proud of the work she and her whole team have done at Shaw Bill's. Named the Modern Tire Dealer of the Year this year, a national award for Shaw Bill's, which opened their doors in 1968 in Morgan City. They've expanded across South Louisiana, and now a national award because they'll sell you name brand tires at wholesale prices, and they'll treat you like family, like free tire repairs for your entire family. If you didn't buy the tires at Shaw Bill's for that vehicle, they'll repair them for free just because Mr. Charlie said in 1968 that's the way you're supposed to do business. It's Shaw Bill's. ShawBillsTire.com. ShawBillsTire.com. Shaw Bill's, where we keep you rolling. Okay, y'all, we're wrapping up hour number 2. SportsCenter's coming up. Let's get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back, I sort of teed off a little bit on the SEC media because they're all conference team, order to finish, all that sort of stuff after media days. Pro Football Focus took their stab at a preseason all-conference team for the SEC, and wouldn't you know it, the people who use more objective data nailed it. We'll tell you next on AFR.
After further review.
You know, the New Orleans Saints are out at practice right now, and if you catch any of the practice photos or videos, you'll notice, although some of you might think that this is abhorrent, there is a beautiful red and white Rouse's patch on the Saints practice jerseys. That's because Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, great supporters of the black and gold, and celebrating 65 years in business. Matter of fact, I literally just opened up Facebook a minute ago, and the first thing in my feed was a Rouse's post celebrating their first 65 years. Opened their first store in Metairie back in 1995. When they opened the first store in Metairie in 95, everyone from Irma Thomas, Chef Harry Lee, they were all there in their commercials. 30 years now in Jefferson Parish, 65 years in business and still going strong. It's Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, voted by you the best supermarket in Baton Rouge and all across the Gulf South. It's Rouse's, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.